You think you know what we're going to talk about.
But unfortunately, I fell down a damn rabbit hole and I've not gotten out yet.
Knife bros.
I literally Googled Sebastian Stan hands.
But just when you least expect it, we changed the game.
Well, yeah, because like usually in astrology, they would partner up air signs with fire signs.
All right, you can huggle.
Time travel stories and
At the end of the day, only one thing matters. We decide.
Well, we should make it a topic. Unfortunately, I didn't take German in school. I took Spanish and I don't remember any of it.
Three Fates Decide podcast.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Three Fates Decide. I'm your host Liz, and I'm here with my two co-hosts, Mary and Sam. Say hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so we are tackling one of the big pop culture juggernauts of the late 20th, early 21st centuries, Harry Potter.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, we're going to be doing this in a series of multiple episodes because of how big the series is in general, and also there's many things to talk about. So in this episode, we're going to cover the first three books. We'll talk a little bit about like some of the differences between the movies and the original novels themselves, and also like a little bit about what we thought of them, both in terms of like the context of, you know, how much like this book series slash movie series affected pop culture in general, and also just how we personally felt about it. Each of the books, the first time we read or saw the films. Okay, so we'll start with the first of the series, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or as we Americans were introduced to the series, to the book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which, by the way, I still think it's kind of silly why they had to change that, but whatever.
Because us
okay.
Americans don't know what philosophers are.
Yeah. Apparently we're dumb and we don't know these things, especially children apparently are too dumb to know what that is. I mean, it's still magical, mystical, whatever, regardless. I don't know what the difference is. But anyway.
I'm with you.
Yeah, but that's a whole other issue. Okay. So, before we start, just a reminder, spoiler alert. You have been warned, and now we will proceed with a very brief summary of this first part of the 7-novel series. So, Harry Potter is an orphan boy brought up by his unkind muggle, aka non-magical aunt and uncle. At the age of 11, half-giant Rubeus Hagrid informs him that he is actually a wizard and that his parents were murdered by an evil wizard named Lord Voldemort. Voldemort also attempted to kill 1-year-old Harry on the same night, but his killing curse mysteriously rebounded and reduced him to a weak and helpless form. Harry becomes extremely famous in the wizarding world as a result. Harry begins his first year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and learns about magic. During the year, Harry and his friends Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger become entangled in the mystery of the Philosopher's Stone, which is being kept within the school. And yeah, that just about sums up the most important parts of that first part in the series. What did you guys think overall of it?
So the book, for anyone who hasn't read it, it is relatively tiny. So it was a very quick, easy read. I loved it, but biased because I liked all the books. But no, I thought, it was a good way to start off what became such a huge series. Obviously you are learning things just like Harry is. You are learning all about the magical world kind of through his eyes. And it really does kind of get you excited for this whole different world that is among us muggles, uh through through everything, and it made me want to go to Hogwarts.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm technically still waiting on my letter. Come
Yeah,
on.
right.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Uh, I will say when I first heard about the books, it was actually my mom and dad who told me about it, and I was just like, "Well, that just sounds like a dumb thing. That just sounds dumb." And so my dad got the first book, and he read it, and then I ended up picking it up, and I was hooked because I was like, I didn't think I would like it,
Hmm.
but it was just it just it draws you in.
Right. Yeah. No, I thought it was a really good way to get you into the world, and again, it's not a long book. And the movie adaptation, I know Christopher Columbus, who was the director, really wanted to stay as true to the books as possible. We're going to go over
Mhm.
kind of some of the differences, but there's really not that much for the first book. I mean, some
No,
characters that aren't in there, but they're not, you
they're
know,
secondary characters, so
they're
they
very,
didn't have
yeah, they're
anything to do with the main plot, and there's a
correct.
few things that they omitted from the movies that were in the books, but it's nothing that really was critical to the that I that I felt was
Hmm.
critical to move the story forward.
I agree.
Yeah. Um uh for me, like I actually got into the series when I was like it was like after college. Because I think the books originally came out when I think I was still in high school at the time. I think. So at that point in time, like I wasn't really interested in Harry Potter. Like I was aware of it because, like, obviously I had classmates and friends who start reading it. I was not really interested, mainly because, for one thing, like my personal taste in like what I was interested in reading was not um stuff that was marketed as like younger kids reading. Not that Harry Potter was like meant to be like young kids, obviously, but like middle school, maybe slightly younger kids could read it like that. Books like that weren't really what I was interested in at the time. And, along with like, you have plenty of stuff to read for school, obviously. So I just didn't have any time or interest then. But then after college was over and, I started working and stuff and I had more free time to read other stuff again. I finally checked it out after, I heard like millions and millions and millions of people enjoyed the series. And I immediately could understand why this appeals to both children and adults because the thing is that what I liked about it is that you can as you read the book at least as and well yeah same thing with the movie is that it doesn't talk down to kids who could be reading or watching this like it makes you feel like you are part of the adventure like you're in on this you know interesting world that Harry is getting himself into and is discovering because you as the audience are also discovering it. So from that perspective, like I would say like it was it's great for kids to get into. And my nieces, especially my older niece, really loved it when I introduced it to her. Like she was 8, almost 9 years old, and she became a Potterhead afterwards. Still is, and she's in college now. But what I also appreciate is like as an adult getting into it, I appreciate how it's much more sophisticated in terms of like the world building and the writing partially because like I was saying before is that it doesn't talk down to a younger audience. Like they don't treat you as like you're like, too young or kind of like well not stupid, but too lacking in knowledge to understand, you know, things and understand, all, the complexities of the real world, but what I would say is that like J.K. Rowling did not, she made it easy to understand, some of the, very serious themes that, ends up developing more as you go on through the rest of the series. And, one of the main ones is like the whole issue with death. I mean, you get introduced to your main character and he's an orphan, so death becomes a thing that comes up quite a bit throughout the series. And that is something you don't often find in, children's literature, at least not at that time, I felt like. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of like how I felt about the first book. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
So, as we mentioned, we're going to kind of go into book and movie. So, obviously, with the movie, I had mentioned before, it did stay very true to the book. A couple of, minor things that they, changed for the uh for the movie. For instance, eliminating, like, in the beginning when Harry started getting the letters from Hogwarts, and the Dudleys were ignoring it and stuff like that. The Dudleys being the aunt and uncle that he's
Dursleys.
living with. I'm sorry, yes, Dudley's the
Dursleys.
cousin. The Dursleys.
Yeah.
I read Dudley, that's why. The Dursleys
That's okay.
are the aunt and uncle. Dudley is the cousin. But technically, before they go to what is called the hut, which is like the shack in the middle of, like, this raging uh ocean, they actually had gone to a hotel, but the letters kept, finding them. So that's why they go to what's called the hut, but they completely eliminate that just to kind of keep things moving. Obviously, you wanted to get to Hogwarts as soon as possible. Um, other small things, like, technically in the book, Harry first met Draco Malfoy actually in Diagon Alley, while shopping, and then while he was on the Hogwarts Express, he kind of learned that Malfoy is actually a bad guy, and that's why he didn't want to be friends with him. Where in the film, he didn't meet Draco until they were already at the school. So, also in the book, Harry first learns about Quidditch, which is like their little version of, like, soccer, football, mix. He learns about it from Draco while in Diagon Alley, and then meanwhile in the movie, he learns about it later on when he's learning how to fly, or after he learns how to fly. There is a character that is missing, which is Peeves, who's the poltergeist. Technically, they did film scenes for him. It ended up being cut, and so he was cut from all the movies, which is very sad because I liked Peeves.
I know. I so wanted Peeves to make an appearance because
Although,
I
yeah,
loved Peeves. I loved Peeves throughout all the books, just because he was just that little sarcastic
Troublemaker.
poltergeist troublemaker in the background, but his trouble really never caused any harm.
Right.
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 Which is what I loved. He caused trouble, but he never caused harm to anybody.
Right. Yeah. So a couple of other little things. Fred and George are actually the first ones to meet Harry, and met him on the platform 9 3/4, and actually wound up telling the rest of their family. And then obviously Ron comes and introduces himself once he gets to the compartment. Oh, Neville actually comes to their compartment, sits with them, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. So that's, where in the movie it's only to ask about, no, I'm sorry. He comes to their compartment not to sit with them, to ask them if you've seen his toad. In the movie, only Hermione asks them if they've seen a toad. That's what it is. I apologize. So they actually meet Neville before Hermione. Though in the book, Hermione does ask if they've seen the toad. But anyway.
Right.
The sorting hat is actually a longer ceremony than in the movie, because they go alphabetical order in the novel. So Harry's toward the end.
Yeah.
And one thing that I like that they did in the movie, along with the book, is, when he gets the sorting hat on, what you don't know is in the book, Sorting Hat only talks to the person that it's like the head that it's on. Like the people around don't hear it. It's like an intermonologue conversation, but obviously in order for the audience in the movie to see what's going on, they actually showed you the
Hat talking.
the conversation. So I thought that was good so that you can still kind of see how Harry's like begging, please don't make me Slytherin.
Yeah. He's like, please not Slytherin, please not Slytherin, please not Slytherin. Are you sure? All right. If you're sure, better be Gryffindor. No, I haven't watched that movie more than once, have I?
Yeah, right.
Oh my god. Oh,
Too funny. Too funny.
yes.
Let's see. So talking about Norbert.
Hagrid got the dragon egg and playing cards or something, and
Okay.
which they show in the movie. I mean, that's in the film and the
They
book.
talk about it,
But
right?
then, right, but in the book, they actually, when they've decided that Norbert is too much for Hagrid to handle, he's too big. He's a wild dragon, for heaven's sakes. You can't tame them. They Charlie, which is Ron's older brother who works with dragons in Romania, comes to Hogwarts and along with 3 other dragon keepers and takes Norbert back to Romania. They do not show that in the film though. They just say that Dumbledore sent him to Romania.
And they omit in the movie that it's Charlie Weasley at all. Like they don't even mention Charlie. So it's literally just he's going to Romania.
Exactly.
And then for the detention, because they were caught outside of the castle, and then so the Harry, Hermione, and Ron get put into detention, and then Draco actually gets put in detention for being out past curfew. And it turns out that Neville is also in detention with them when they go into the Forbidden Forest.
Yes. Well, actually, it was supposed to be Neville and not Ron because Ron was actually in the hospital wing in the book because he'd gotten bitten by Norbert, and Norbert is venomous, which they don't tell you in the movie. So it was actually Harry, Neville, Hermione, and Draco.
Mm-hmm.
But in the movie, it was Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Draco.
And I just want to preface, so you hear in the movie a lot, they talk about points, and they don't make it as big of a deal in the movie as it is in the books. Like in the books, in the Great Hall, the Great Hall or whatever, like there's actually like how I imagine was like hourglasses per house. So there's 4 houses, and every time a professor gives, you get rubies or whatever that gets in there, and then if you get points taken away, they get like sucked up. That's how I always imagined it. I just feel like they never made it as big of a deal in the movie as it was in the books. I just want to
yeah, because once again the points don't matter,
just like in Whose Line Is It Anyway.
Yeah.
God, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah, right. So there are 2 other centaurs that technically in the movie that are with Firenze when they're in the Forbidden Forest, but they are omitted, so it's just Firenze that you meet. And Firenze is the one that saved Harry, who you learn is Voldemort when he's drinking unicorn blood.
Exactly. They have a it's right around Halloween, isn't it, that they're trying to do that they're at the feast, and Quirrell comes in saying, or Professor Quirrell comes in saying that there's a troll.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, there's a troll, and that's when they realize that who they thought Professor Snape was trying to steal the Philosopher's Stone this entire time because nobody likes Snape. They all said he was a slimy git. Book and movie. I liked Snape. I was one of the few people that liked Snape. I think.
Uh,
And so they wanted to they were trying to get through to go past the trap door. And that's when they fight the troll.
well, so in the book, what's true with the movie and the book is that Hermione is in the bathroom crying when Quirrell comes in, saying that there is a troll.
Yeah.
And Harry and Ron do go to find her, but when they see the troll going into a room, they didn't realize that that was actually the girls' bathroom, so they locked the troll in the bathroom. And after they hear Hermione screaming because obviously the troll starts attacking, and that's when they realize that they locked the troll in with her in the bathroom, thus then having to go in and save her. Again, not too much difference in terms of like the end, them going through like all different like obstacle courses to get to Quirrell, who we find out is the bad guy. The only thing is that Nicholas Flamel's wife is at the very end of the book, but they don't mention her because I guess Harry, when he found out Flamel is actually dying because he's not using the stone anymore. And the only other thing, we don't see it until actually the second movie, but he gets a photo album from Hagrid while he's in the hospital, and it's like an album of like his family, so that's how he sees like his parents and things like that. So like I said, we don't see that until really the second movie, but it's actually given to him in the first book when he's in the hospital. So okay, so yeah, that's kind of like some of the changes. Physical appearance in the book, Hermione is described to have bushy hair and prominent front teeth, which obviously Emma Watson does not have. They tried to make her hair as bushy as possible. It's definitely not as bad as they make it seem in the book. In the book, Harry has green eyes. Daniel Radcliffe has blue eyes. They tried to do colored contacts, but Daniel was allergic. So that's why he has blue eyes in the movie. And in the book, he's described as having messy black hair, but obviously Daniel's hair is brown, not black, and it really was never messy. Like that was like they always talked about the messy haired, like green-eyed boy, like whatever, and it really wasn't.
Yeah, because
Um,
he was always said to have his mother's eyes,
yes.
which in the books, which never made sense in the movies because obviously she had green eyes and he has blue.
And Ron is actually supposed to be very tall and lanky, and Fred and George are supposed to be shorter than him, and it was the opposite in the films. So
Well, you can't always predict how tall kids are gonna get, though, when you cast them. That's the thing.
right. So,
Yeah.
but so yeah. But I thought, other than obviously the small, minute physical differences, which again, you can never get it perfect. I thought they did a very good job at casting. I thought Daniel Radcliffe was perfect for Harry, obviously minus the blue eyes, but I thought he resembled Harry perfectly. I really do think that they did a great job with casting.
Yeah, but overall, like, I actually thought, like, the kid actors actually did pretty good, in the movie, especially at the time, because they were actual kids more or less around the same age as the characters. So they did an amazing job. Like, you really believe that, oh, this kid is from a wizarding family. You totally believe it. Not that it's hard to pretend that you're not from a wizarding family, but yeah, you totally believe it. You believe these kids, which shows how really good a job they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think the casting was pretty spot on for everybody, especially Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Richard Harris was the absolute perfect Dumbledore. He reminded me of the Dumbledore from the books. He looked like the Dumbledore that I pictured in my head from the book.
May he rest in
Uh,
peace.
Yes, may he rest in peace. And Snape was the other one, and may Alan Rickman rest in peace.
Yes.
And I will say, I did like Robbie Coltrane as Ruby's Haggard.
Yes.
He
was
that
very
that
good.
was a very good choice. That was a very good choice.
Yeah, no, he did a great job.
Yeah.
They all did. They all did a really good job.
They did. Though I still, the only one that I really was crazy about, I have to say, and granted he was just kind of like a minor character in the background, was Dudley.
Yeah.
It just didn't give me that something. I don't know what it was. I don't know. He wasn't as convincing. I mean, he still did a good job, but he just wasn't as convincing to me.
Okay. Anything else from the first book/movie?
Not really.
Not really. They did pretty good with. I mean, they kept it pretty true to the.
The book, yeah. Like I said, anything that we mentioned, it's all little things. Like there was no major as we go on. The third one is a little bit more, but like the first two books is basically there's not many changes. But as we go on, we'll get more into the things that were omitted that probably shouldn't have been. But okay, so let's move on to the second Harry Potter book, which is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Harry, Ron, and Hermione return to Hogwarts for their second year, which proves to be more challenging than the last. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened, leaving students and ghosts petrified by an unleashed monster. Harry must face up to claims that he is the heir of Salazar Slytherin, who is actually the founder of the chamber. And people also learn that he can speak Parseltongue and also discover the properties of a mysterious diary, only to find himself trapped within the Chamber of Secrets itself.
Dun dun dun.
It's quite the synopsis.
Right? But that's pretty much what the book and the movie's all about.
Yeah, it is true. That is
Right?
what it is about, without going
Yes.
into too much detail.
Exactly. Which we like.
You know, yeah, I mean, some of the earlier adventures that Harry, Hermione, and Ron get into, it almost there's a bit of that Scooby Doo gang feeling to it. It's like you stumble upon like weird happenings happening, and then you inadvertently find some clues, and you start poking around to get more clues, and then haha, you unmasked the truth at the end of the story. All sorts of wacky things happening along the way.
Yes,
Yes.
some crazy characters. All right, so going into some changes. So one character that we meet that is, I think, one of everyone's favorites is Dobby.
Yes. Yes.
Dobby the house elf. And at the very beginning, we don't know who Dobby belongs to. Basically, we learn like house elves have to basically follow orders, and they can't be freed unless their master presents them with clothing. So just a little. There's not too many things, like I said, too many changes from the book to the movie. Can I just say one thing? And
Sure.
I'm just reading it. So, sorry, and then you can. So, the whole thing is like underage wizards can't perform magic, right? Unless they're in
Right.
school.
Right.
When they get to Diagon Alley, right? And obviously Harry winds up going to the wrong place, breaks his glasses, whatever. And in the film, okay, Hermione
Mhm.
repairs them. No one says anything, even though it's underage magic, and you can't do that. That's a big no-no. I'm glad in the book, it's actually Mr. Weasley who fixes Harry's glasses. But it annoys me almost that they switched it to Hermione. I need to know why they would do that when
Mhm.
it's underage magic. Like, why would you do that? Sorry. I, like, read it and I was like,
Unless, well, I know in places like Diagon Alley and even on the Hog Express, those are places full of magic, so it would be very difficult to know exactly who was performing that magic in those, whether they was. It's probably why they felt they could get away with it in the movie.
okay, so in the book, Mr. Weasley, Arthur Weasley, actually fights Lucius Malfoy at Flourish and Blotts, which they completely leave out of movie. Instead, in the movie, they just exchange some tense words with each other.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like the changes that they do, especially in these beginning movies, like we said earlier, are like like in the grand scheme of things, are relatively minor things that
Mhm.
don't really do much of anything to detract from the story in any way. So, you know, it's a mix of like, well, okay, let's simplify things so that we don't have to spend extra time and money filming every single thing.
Right.
But, you know, also like we just want, but you know, at the same time, it's like we still want to make it make sense as much as possible anyway, just by that one little detail.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing that is different, so anyone that has seen, you know, the films, Draco calls Hermione a mudblood, which is a very derogatory name for muggles. And in the book, Hermione actually never heard the term before. Ron was the one that actually had to explain what it was. But in the film, not only does she know, but she's actually very like offended and like gets emotional over it. So that's a little something. There's a death day party for nearly headless Nick, anniversary of the day of his death. They completely ignore that, but again, not important, so I completely understand why. You find
Right.
out in this book that Filch is what's called a squib, and a squib is actually a non-magical person born from two magical parents. They completely ignore that throughout all the books. You really don't even know that about Filch. I think people just assume he is magical, but he's just like the guy. But he is what's called a squib, so they completely ignore that, and he gets made fun of actually as a result, which is just kind of sad. Okay, so Ron and Ron and Harry had gotten attention at one point, and Ron's attention was to shine the trophies in their big trophy room, and that's actually how he learns about Tom Riddle, and they cut that from the movie. It's in a deleted scene. They did film it, but they cut it out of the film. I don't think there's much of anything else that was like distinctly, in case you didn't watch or read, the reason why Harry and Ron go into the Chamber of Secrets toward the end is because Ron's little sister Ginny was taken by the monster.
Yes.
And the reason why Harry can hear the monster throughout the school is because monster is a monster-sized snake, and as we mentioned, Harry is what's called parcel tongue, which means he can understand snakes and speak to them.
And he can understand and speak to snakes, which was a trait of Salazar Slytherin.
Right.
And you find
I know exactly what you're going to say. I was about to say too. Go ahead.
you find out that the only reason, well, at the end of it, when they save, when they save everybody, you find out at the end of it that the only reason that Harry can speak to snakes is because of Voldemort. And when the curse rebounded off of Harry and hit Voldemort, it transferred some of Voldemort's power into Harry. because Voldemort was the last descendant of Salazar Slytherin,
Mm-hmm.
and not Harry.
And poor Harry.
I know, that poor kid.
He was so lonely.
Been through a hell of a lot for only being 12. Poor kid.
Right? My God. So yeah, that is some of the more, I guess, important changes. And then, just one more thing that is actually in the book, in the movie, is that Harry frees Dobby by tricking Lucius in a way. So Lucius, we find out. Okay, now rewind. So way that poor Ginny was basically corrupted to do all these things for Tom Riddle. Tom Riddle is I want to say like a variant. That's like the first word that kind of comes to mind. Like he's the younger version of Voldemort. He's what you'll find out later, a Horcrux of Voldemort in a diary. And
Yes.
Lucius gives the diary to Ginny without anyone knowing, and then Ginny kind of goes under like this like spell type of thing and is like hypnotized and doing all this stuff for him, and that's why she goes down to the Chamber of Secrets, whatever. So at the end, Harry gives the diary back to Lucius because he figures out that that's how Ginny got it, and he put his sock in there so that when Lucius gave Dobby the diary and Dobby opened it, the sock would come out, and then Dobby was finally free from that abusive
Yeah.
home.
Dobby was free.
Yes.
The use of loopholes.
Right?
Gotta love him, right?
And fun fact, so after it happens, like obviously Lucius is very upset that he just lost his house. So he actually goes to
Yes.
do the Avada Kedavra before he's like blasted away from Dobby. Was ad-libbed by Jason Isaacs, who is Lucius Malfoy in the movie. Another fantastic casting, by the way.
Yes, and a fantastic actor, just in general.
I mean, he's like, I don't know a role of his that I haven't liked.
All I can say is, while Jason Isaacs may not be a slimy asshole in real life, he plays slimy asshole really well.
Yes, he's so good. Yes.
He really makes you hate him.
Yep. First time I ever saw him was The Patriot, and I was like, oh.
Right? I'm like, from everything I've ever read about him, he seems to be like a genuinely nice guy, and yet the man plays slimy asshole well. I'm just like, don't know how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're good. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, that was an amazing casting. Amazing casting.
It really, really, truly was.
And unfortunately for Richard Harris, this was his last movie for Harry Potter because he did pass away before the third movie was shot.
Yes.
Which brings us to the third movie.
Yes.
Or book.
And
or both.
The third book / movie is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And this movie / book is Harry Potter's third year sees the boy wizard along with his friends once again attending Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Professor R.J. Lupin joins the staff as Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, while convicted murderer Sirius Black escapes from Azkaban prison. The Ministry of Magic entrusts the Dementors of Azkaban to guard Hogwarts from Sirius Black. Harry learns more about his past and his connection with the escaped prisoner in this book / movie.
I like this one.
So,
this is actually one of my favorites.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have to say my absolute favorite is probably Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.
Mm.
The fifth book is probably my favorite, but this is like second best.
Yeah. Oh, this was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was good because you actually get to dive more into history, like Harry's, I don't want to say Harry's past, but more like lost family history, if you will, that he was not aware of, but you, just like him, are learning more about what happened before. And you start to realize that what you as the audience and what Harry thought he knew about what was going on back then isn't the complete story. That's the thing I like about it, is that you kind of learn more about his parents, because like all he knew up to that point was that his parents were a witch and a wizard. They got killed by this evil wizard Voldemort for some reason that I don't think, from what I recall, they didn't really fully explain why they targeted him, or
They
'cause
do. It's the prophecy.
oh yeah, that's true, that's right. They did
It was the
mention.
prophecy. However, there was two young boys that could have been the bearer of that prophecy. That a lot of people, and they've never really stated it in any of the books or the movie, or they may stated it in the books, but
Not the
not the movies,
movies.
as far as I can remember. Was the fact that there was two boys born on the 31st of July.
Right,
The first one was
but
Harry
what
Potter.
I
The
thought they didn't.
second
Right, sorry.
was Neville.
I thought that didn't come up until the 5th book, though.
You can't. Yeah, it was later.
It was later, but that's why.
Right, but as of the 3rd book, though, I don't remember them ever mentioning a
No,
prophecy.
they don't mention. No, I don't think they did. I don't think they
It
did.
was it's yeah, because from what I could remember, like, again, maybe I'm misremembering, but I could have sworn that as of the 3rd book, they never really explained why Harry's family was targeted, other than,
R-
oh, he's an evil wizard
Right, like each
and
book.
stuff.
So each book, I feel like you learn, you get another piece of the puzzle, right?
Right, which is what, like, I was trying to say before, was that, like, especially in the 3rd book,
Hmm.
you start getting info that you didn't know about before regarding what happened back then,
Right.
because up to that point, you only got bits and bobs, in the 1st book and a little bit in the 2nd book, but, it wasn't that
Hmm.
much. Which is why it was a shocking reveal for Harry, like, all this stuff that he found in the 3rd book. Like, he had no idea, like, Lupin was even a friend of his dad's.
Hmm.
He didn't know that this evil convict is his long-lost godfather, who technically would have probably gotten custody of him,
Hmm.
uh, if he wasn't, like, a convicted criminal. So, yeah,
Yeah.
all those what ifs and mysteries and things.
Yeah. No, and that's honestly kind of like what I like about these books is, like I said, it's like each book you get a different piece of the puzzle that explains like everything, leading all the way up to like the end when you kind of, it all comes to a head. But it's like, at this point, the first book you learn that Harry is a wizard, his parents were murdered, and that the person that did murder him disappeared, but is still around. The second book,
Right.
you learn that because Harry's mom protected him, Harry, when Voldemort tried to kill Harry, he, obviously survived and he got some of the characteristics of Voldemort. Now, this one, you learn that his parents were betrayed by someone close to them, to Voldemort, which is why all that happened. So, yeah, it's just another piece of this puzzle that we're learning.
The first thing that they changed in the movie was that Harry, once again underaged, is using a spell, and
Yeah.
he does not get written up for it. And that has always kind of sat funny with me. Because I'm like, he's in a muggle household and they could figure out they knew what happened last year with Dobby, thinking that it was Harry doing the magic, but now he's doing magic and they just don't give a shit.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. Now they're
It
like,
is weird.
it's okay.
It's like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like, I do not think so. And then Aunt Marge. Oh God. Aunt Marge brings back horrible flashbacks of my family. Uh, not obviously not the getting blown up and flying around the chimneys, but just the attitude.
Yeah. And in the book,
I
she only floats up to the ceiling. She doesn't fly out of the house.
Exactly.
Night bus Harry in order to keep his identity a secret. He calls himself Neville Longbottom. Poor Neville. Always Neville.
Poor Neville.
But in the film,
Poor
he
Neville.
doesn't say Neville. He just doesn't say who he is.
Right.
And then he actually stayed at the Leaky Cauldron like 2 weeks after he got there because he still had 2 weeks left of summer vacation.
Right. Yeah, and they cut out the entire Diagon Alley scenes from the book in the movie. So Harry first meets Ron and Hermione back in the Leaky Cauldron.
I think one of the biggest thing that they omitted from the film, or at least they don't reveal it in the film, is the origins of the Marauders map. They like go all into the storyline in the book.
Yeah.
They don't do
And
that.
it's just like all of a sudden here's just the
There's a map.
Marauder. Like, here you go.
Yeah.
In the Quidditch match where Harry gets attacked by the Dementors or whatever, he falls off his broom. It actually in the book they talk about how Cedric Diggory, who is obviously a more prominent character in the next one, is the one that actually catches the snitch. In the film, he's struck by lightning. With Harry's Patronus, or when he's doing the Patronus lessons, I should say. During his first lesson, he tries to ward off the Dementor twice unsuccessfully. In the book, it's only once.
Yeah.
And also, Harry's memory is actually how happy he is, or how happy he would be if he left the Dursleys. The film, he makes up some crazy thing about his parents.
Yeah, that was just I swear they just used that for to make people feel bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't already feel bad for the kid. I mean, my God.
Yeah. Oh, I think we do find out about the prophecy. Hold on. Oh no, I think it's just the prophecy of the that she has in the film. I lied.
Let me
About
see.
how, remember, she had a prophecy in the movie. I think that's what it is. I saw prophecy and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, we do find out. We didn't.
yeah, no, it's in the prophecy that she states is, it will happen tonight. The Dark Lord lies alone and friendless, abandoned by his followers. His servant has been chained these 12 years. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will break free and set out to rejoin his master. The Dark Lord will rise again with his servant's aid, greater and more terrible than he ever was. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will set out to rejoin his master. At least that was what it was in the book.
Yeah. I think they did a shortened version.
Yeah, in the film it was, he will return tonight. Tonight, he who betrayed his friends, whose heart rots with murder, shall break free. Innocent blood shall be spilt, and servant and master shall be reunited once more.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's purposely vague enough where
Yep.
we are meant to believe it was Sirius Black, but it turned out to be somebody else.
Yes.
Oh, prophecies.
Well, that's the whole thing. They leave you guessing. Oh, you learn in the book. They talk about how Lupin actually has a connection to the Shrieking Shack and the Whomping Willow. So you know, it's very close to him because of his werewolfness.
Yes, because we find out he actually is a werewolf. They don't talk about actually who the Marauders are in this movie. Not really.
Mhm.
I mean, not really. I mean, they kind of do, but you don't really know because it says as the identities of the Marauders are not revealed until the fourth and fifth films, it causes a bit of confusion as to why Snape has such hatred towards Sirius and Lupin in the third for those who have not read the books.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the book, Hermione is with Harry and Sirius when they're attacked by Dementors. In the film, she attempts to run after them, but Snape stops her. And at the end, since poor Ron lost his rat, because Scabbers is actually Peter Pettigrew, and Peter Pettigrew is a bad man who betrayed
Yeah.
Lily
The
and
treacherous
James.
rat.
So
The
Yeah.
treacherous rat, if you will.
yes, exactly. Sirius,
I mean, he chose a good animagus form
yes, but
as a rat.
Sirius
Really
gave
did.
Ron a little owl called Pigwidgeon. Pigwidgeon. Try and say
It's
that like yeah. Try and say that a couple times fast. Pigwidgeon. No,
Pigwidgeon.
but yeah. So Sirius is a nice guy. Oh, and Harry technically gets his firebolt well before the end of the movie. The book, he
Yeah.
gets it for Christmas. In the movie, he gets it at the end. So that is pretty much the end.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess like the final conclusion, I guess I have, is that it kind of feels like these first three are like the more innocent, fun parts of like Harry Potter in a way, because granted, it did get dark in some places, especially, you know, when you're dealing directly with Voldemort and then, you know, the Dementors being a thing in the third book. But you end up feeling like at the end of the movies and also at the end of the books that there's something like not lighthearted, but you know, you still felt like, you know, wow, another adventure ended, and you know what new, you know, it's almost like a bit hopeful in a way that like, you know, oh, you know, what crazy wacky thing is going to happen next year. But then when you get into the fourth book and then the rest of the series, it just feels like it gets progressively darker and darker, which if I recall an interview like J.K. Rowling did like ages ago, I think she indicated that she intentionally did it that way to have the stories get darker as Harry gets older, and I guess he starts maturing and developing like an ability to start processing some of these things
Mhm.
that, you know, he wouldn't have been able to deal with had some of these things happen in the first year.
Right.
You know, especially because right, especially because, you know, initially the target demographic, you know, granted it's both kids and adults reading it, but the initial target audience for the series are children. And it's like if you're reading the books and you're basically growing up along with Harry, just as he's starting to deal with like bigger things and more complex emotions and situations, you as the kid reader are also doing the same.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and I just remember from watching the reunion that they just did on HBO Max. Like, the third movie was where they kind of started, as you mentioned, like even though the third one isn't as dark as like the rest of them, but like that's kind of like where they started turning it to be a little bit more dark. Um,
right.
so yeah, and it all goes downhill from here,
As it were.
as it were. Yep.
Yes. So I have three issues with this movie,
Mhm.
I guess. And it has nothing to do with the actors. They're all fantastic. They're all fantastic actors. I was not convinced as Michael Gambon as Dumbledore.
Yeah.
I did not like his portrayal of Dumbledore. He was too aggressive. Dumbledore was not aggressive. Dumbledore was manipulative, but he was not aggressive.
I guess they couldn't get anybody. I don't know.
Right. No, I'm not saying that Michael Gambon is not a good actor. He is,
Right.
and he did well. It's just his portrayal of Dumbledore was not what I one was used to seeing, and two what I had envisioned in my head for any of it.
Yeah.
2, Sirius Black's tattoos. I'm sorry, but and I like Gary Oldman as an actor. He's a good actor. However, if I remember the books correctly, Sirius Black was always stated as being a very handsome man, a very handsome wizard. I didn't see it.
Oh.
I was not convinced.
Don't forget he's also been in Azkaban. Because I thought in the 4th movie he looked a lot better.
Yeah, but the tattoos. It was the tattoos for me. It's like, why did they have to put tattoos on him? And I love tattoos. I didn't think they fit.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he went to like regular jail.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're they don't get. So I mean, he obviously he did all those damn tattoos himself, because I'm pretty sure that they weren't getting yard time.
Yeah, I know, right?
And they were sitting in a damn. I'm pretty sure they were sitting in a little itty bitty cell for many years, all by themselves.
Yes.
I know,
In their
right?
little tiny cells.
Yes. Now, granted, he was able to stay in Animagus form, which kind of helped keep him saner than others, because the man is not sane in any way, shape, or form after he comes out the first time.
Yeah.
He is not.
No,
he is
he
not a
loses
sane
it. Has
Yeah,
lost it, I should
he
say.
done lost it. Yeah, he done lost it a while ago.
Not that I blame him.
And right, I really don't. And the werewolf,
Okay, like the CGI.
the CGI werewolf.
Yeah.
That just I wasn't impressed.
It was a lot scarier in the book, I thought.
Yes. And they always said in the book that it looked much more like an actual wolf, only bigger. Like, I think it had like a longer long snout, bigger feet. It was just like bigger. This just, I was like, yeah, okay. I'm no.
Yeah.
Go back and do it again. Get me a it's like, go look at some big old wolves. I mean, and just make it bigger.
Right.
Like, I was thinking something like the dire wolves from Game of Thrones. I mean, granted, they, like,
Yeah.
you couldn't have done something like that. That would have been more believable.
Right.
Those were my three. Those were my three issues, really. Other than that, I liked it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So I really, the only other thing was I didn't like Sirius and Hermione's interaction once they got off the back of Buckbeak. That just screamed. That was a little squeaky to me.
the film.
I didn't like. I didn't like it. It's just the way he kind of he held her hand and all this. I'm just like, that's just a little squeaky. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Man just been in prison for how
Right.
long?
I know, but she's underage. Damn it.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta be careful with that stuff.
Exactly. I'm just like, that was just a little. Yeah. No.
You really are the brightest witch of your age. Like, okay, go away.
Exactly.
Go away.
I'm just like,
Fly away.
I'm just like that whole interaction just really was not. No.
You creepy man,
No.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And
Out of the
Yeah.
three, in terms of movie or book to movie, the third one had more changes in it than the first two. But
Yeah.
again,
Right.
it's still minimal.
Right. The changes weren't anything that were detrimental to the plot. Just a few things that could have been changed, or even things I think that could have probably even been put into the films that were omitted that wouldn't have hurt it in any way, shape, or form. But
Right.
it's okay.
But after our next episode, so basically we decided to do the first 3 books in one episode because we knew we would be able to get through them relatively quickly because there wasn't that
Yes.
many changes from book to movie and whatever. But for the rest of the books, it's going to be one
Yes.
episode per book because starting with book 4, there's just disastrous amount of changes from
Yes.
book to movie. And I'm just going to say Half-Blood Prince was my least favorite movie, and I'll explain why when we get to that one because that was just a travesty.
Yeah, I think I know exactly what you mean by it too. There was a lot omitted from that one. It almost didn't feel like the movie went with the book.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Other than the name.
Right. For our listeners, if we missed anything in terms of the adaptation from book to movie that you think is important, reach out to us, let us know, because again, we were kind of quickly reading through things, and just did a couple per book because, as we mentioned, again, the first 3 books didn't have us at least many significant changes. If there was something that you didn't like that was missed, feel free to reach out to us because we do like to hear from you guys.
Yes, we want to hear from you. Please.
Okay, so before we close out, as usual, we have an email address where you can send us questions, comments, criticisms on how to improve our show. You can email us at threefatesdecide@gmail.com. It's the title of our podcast, all in one word, and the 3 is spelt out.
And you can also reach us on Instagram at 3fatesdecide. The 3 is spelled out. And feel free to send us DMs.
Let us know what you think. We love feedback.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch us next time.
And see what we're going to talk about.
Because the 3 fates decide.